And it is easy to say, and it is easy for us to what I believe what the enemy does is that whenever, so he got different avenues he can detour you, right? And there's always this one button that he know he can push that will get you to question everything that God has told you.
I just want to be a G today.
So
I want to be soft today.
I would have been if he would have kept other topics. I ain't gonna be no more good for this
I
one.
just want to be a G.
but that's how that, and we can, we always gonna end up laughing or something silly because that's who we are. By the way, welcome to the Soul Rehab Podcast. We are already in pre-pod mode, and so we're gonna bring y'all in.
Quit the tears.
I'm already crying.
I'm sorry. But today's topic is going to be roundabout us talking about identity and how we feel about our identity and how describing our identity can sometimes make us feel inadequate in things that we do. So we don't know where it's going to take us, but it's already taking us down
where we wanted to go today.
Because it's kind of tough. So we're in the middle of a conversation of having, so what really made me think about this is that, you go through certain things in life and, God starts showing you who he called you to be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you start getting that call, one, you kind of question it a little bit yourself, but then eventually you'll start like, you know what, I think he did call me that. He's been showing me a little bit and I see it. And so what happens is you are, the enemy will cause, and that's what I'm gonna say, the enemy will cause an attack to come from an area. There's this button that everybody got that he can push that will cause us to question everything that God called us to. And a lot of times that button, and what we're talking in the middle talking about now, is our kids. It's super hard for you to know that God has called you to something, and you helping other people, and other people telling you help, and you can't even help your own kids.
Let me add, it feel like a complete failure.
Yeah.
As a parent.
Yeah. Because, and that's what we were talking. That's what identity. Because I was talking about earlier. We were talking about finding identity in something that we should really be. There are really more roles than what we should be finding identity in. And one of the roles that we play, all of us play for sure, is being a parent.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I know it's bad to say, but a lot of times we find identity in how our kids are. We judge ourselves by the way we raise our kids. And I know, and we really shouldn't, but it's just one of the things you do because, you feel like you do the best you can with what you have. And no matter what you do, it can seem like it's not going right. So it makes you feel like maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe something wrong with me. Maybe I should have been in a more healed spot, and then maybe this stuff wouldn't happen. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, and I don't know why this scripture just popped in my head, but some God, if we take care of what God wants us to take care of, he'll take care of what's important to us. And a lot of times, and I was talking about this earlier, that we have a tendency to want to save people from their prodigal son moment.
Right.
Because they're my kids.
Yes.
And we don't even want to go through it. I don't want them to experience what I had to go through.
Right.
But I had to remember that what I went through brought me to where I'm at now.
That's right.
And it hurts. Especially for your kids to be a little distant, to really act like you ain't. It kind of make you feel like the way they act and treat you sometimes that you're not being a good parent, and it really bothers us in general. And so in that role right there, the enemy can push that button because he know I can get them off track with that button. Nope, they were feeling it. What I've been doing ain't been working, but I got this red button that'll drop this nuclear bomb on them, and they're gonna fall right back because they do it every time. And so that's something that else that as you speak on it and you think about it, like all of us. And you need to grow by it. But I'm gonna just say all of us got this red button that he can push that can make us be willing to risk it all. Like, God, I ain't doing that. No, I'm tired of, I need to do whatever you got going on. My kids, it could be my husband, it could be my wife, it could be my job, it can be the money I had. There's something, they said it was all for a rich man to go into heaven. But, his money was his idol. And all of us have an idol that we have that is hard for us to give up and give to God. But the crazy thing about it is it Abraham that had to give up? He was going to sacrifice his son. Yeah, sacrifice Isaac because God told him, and God told him that he would be the father of many nations.
Yes.
But he had to sacrifice the one thing that would make that come
the
true.
Most precious.
Yeah. And and so it's like, and Abraham was willing to do that. And sometimes as parents, it's super hard for us to make that sacrifice because I find so much identity in being a father, and I want to be a good father, and I want my kids to turn out well. I want them to live better than I do. And so a lot of times that becomes blinders for us and a easy target for the enemy to hit. And so and I don't want to do off talking, but and with us knowing that, do we have the faith that it would take for us, one, not to find identity in a role, because we have identity in the Father. We are sons and daughters of God, right? We have to know that. And so we have to trust Him to make a way out of no way, and for us not to get in His way, which is hard, right? And so when we define these roles, mother, father, student, what are some roles? Whatever you play a job, pastor, psalmist, what else?
Pope.
President, Pope, all these titles, they are really just roles we play. And so when we start finding identity in them roles, it's hard to put them down. And I think the enemy knows that. And so he uses them things to keep us at bay and to keep our identity from us not knowing that we are kingdom kids and we always thinking we are what we do. So do y'all have it? I know it's been a heavy topic, especially pre-potty, but because it had me in my feelings, because I really am in my feelings about that thing. It bothers me, but I know that I can't really let it, because it's hard to be such a light to other people. When you see your child, your loved one in the dark, and you like, I'm this to this person, but for my own flesh and blood, I feel like I'm not meeting the mark. And so, Francis, I see you writing notes. You got something that you want to ask?
These may be private notes. I was just playing. Okay. Let me say, breathe. I think he said the identity as a parent. Again, all of us are parents. We all have children. We all love our children dearly. And I think I heard you say one thing I do want to start with is, whenever we found out we were going to have we found out we were expecting, we started having dreams for our child as soon as we found out we were going to be carrying that child. And that's something that's normal. We all have hopes and dreams for our children. And sometimes I think when I go back to that scripture, I love this scripture for so many reasons. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, said the Lord. Before we even conceived our children, He had plans for our children. And our dreams and plans may not have been God's plans.
Right.
Are we lining our plans and dreams up? And that's something that I struggle with, because, there was things that I had dreams for my children to do, and then come out and find out, this is not going to be what it's going to be. And then can we grieve the dreams that we've had for our children. And that takes you to a place because maybe you wanted your child to go to college. They didn't go to college. Maybe you wanted your child to graduate from high school. They didn't graduate from high school. Or maybe you didn't want your child to end up having a baby out of wedlock, but they did. That doesn't mean that God still can't use them or have their story. And I like the prodigal son's experience. We all have our different journeys. My thing that I struggle with is, as a parent, God entrusted us as parents because we're a little bit wiser. We know a little bit more. My thing as a parent is when I know something and I'm trying to help you and you go in the opposite direction and it's going to cause you damage, that frustrates my whole soul. And I have to go back to something. I dedicated all my children back to God when they were smaller. And this is something, coincidence, Zai's initial sermon is tomorrow. But this is something the Lord, because, people were asking me in the beginning, was I excited about him doing it? And I wasn't excited about him being a minister or getting ready to preach or whatever, because many people look at ministry as being glamorous.
Right.
And it's far from that. And I said, I could give them $25, in a love offering. It's not just about that. Or it's not about wearing a suit or, getting a chicken plate. It's more to that. The people don't see the suffering. They don't see the calls at night. They don't see having to study to show yourself approval. They don't see almost all the time being on call. And they also don't see that even though you're a preacher, a pastor, or whatever, you're still human. Mm-hmm. They don't see you actually suffering. They almost take on preachers as like they're supposed to be some superheroes. Right. And by him being young, I didn't want that for him because he's still a child. So no, I wasn't excited. So I had to go to God in prayer on that. And this is something that the Lord checked me about, and he took me back to what I said when I was pregnant with them. And I gave them back to God because I was really struggling with it, and I was prostrated because I was like, look, if somebody pop off at them, I'm going to be ready. I was like, and best friend was going to be ready too. and chosen one was going to be ready too. Okay. Because they don't play about them. But I had to lay before the Lord and just really hear from him, because I was like, Lord, I don't know if he's ready. And I'm not trying to compare preaching to actresses or things, but sometimes you see these child actresses on TV and they grew up too fast. Mm-hmm. And then they get to adulthood life and their adulthood life is messed up. And I was like, Lord, I don't want this for my child. I want him to be able to enjoy his childhood. I want him to be able to still be a kid. I want people to understand that, he's not perfect. He's answered the call, and he's still going to make mistakes. Give him some grace, well, my team will handle that. But, I just also think, I said to the Lord when they were born, I give them back to you, God, for your use, for your purpose, and for your glory. And so he reminded me of that. And I hate when God gives you back your words, when you give, so he was like, Francis, or, you said you gave them back to me. So then when he used my words against me, and I was like, Lord, you playing here. You see me on this floor crying out to you, and now you want to use my words back against you. And it was a question was, well, do you trust me with your child? Like you said, I do. Mm-hmm. And so something else is, when I think about my oldest son, one of my prayers is, even though sometimes you could have a prodigal son experience, one of my prayers has been, Lord, please don't let him hit rock bottom. Don't let him hit rock bottom, God. Lord, don't let him be broken, God. Lord, let him cry out to you. Let him hear you and let him have a visitation from you, because he knows you. One thing about my children, they know the Lord. They were raised in the church. They know how to pray. Whether they do it or not, that's been up to them. But I also had thought about that, with a seed. In the Bible it says some plant and some water it. As a parent's job is to plant that seed. Mm-hmm. And so it might not always be, even though we want to water it, we want to make sure we nourish that plant. We want to do everything to that seed. It might not be our job to water that plant. It might be that brother down the street's job to water that plant. And it will actually be the one that is designed to water, or that person will be able to reach them in a way that we may not be able to reach them. And so I think sometimes just taking the seat back is hard for me, very hard for me, because I like to be in control. I like to plan. So not actually knowing how the outcome is going to be and not having my hands all the way in it takes me to a place that, like, what you always say, sit down somewhere or whatever, and you be like, get somewhere and sit down.
Please go sit down.
But sometimes I think as parents, we want our hands to be all in it. Yeah. And my sister sent me something the other day. She was like, Francis, you always got to be stirring in the pot. You always got to be doing something. You always got to know what's going on. You got to plan it, or you just don't feel. You give yourself anxiety but it's just trusting God to be God. I trust God to be what he said he's going to be, even in the difficult times. I trust him that if he said he'll save my whole household, I trust him on that. Mm-hmm. If he called my children to be something, I trust him on that. And here's the part that's hard. I'm not in the process. Wow. And that's the part as a parent, when we're not able to fix it, when we're not able to go to it, and that's difficult. Mm-hmm. Like there's been times I just wanted to get to Colorado and get to my son, and the Lord was like, you're putting your hands in it. Trust me to be God. And there's something that I say often. I always tell my children before they leave, I decree Psalms 91 over your life. And then there's something, I've been saying this lately, and he sent the word and it healed them. Mm-hmm. So I can't be in Colorado, but God is everywhere. And I could send and I could decree the word over his life, and I could trust God to be God. And I think sometimes we just got to trust the process, even though it's difficult, and to sit back. I'm learning to sit down, and it's hard because even sometimes when I go back to that pot and just want to stir it a little bit, God reminds me I need to sit back down. So, and I think that's what's so hard. And sometimes they have to fall down. And that's the part that's difficult as a parent, because you could see them about to fall, and you're trying to guide them where they don't fall. But again, we got to trust the process, because everybody has a journey. What if falling is going to make them cry out to the Lord? Right. What if falling is going to get them to a better relationship to God? And I just think that God didn't give up on us, and we probably didn't always do the things that our parents liked. And our parents probably grieved over some things that we did too. And by them they were there for us, but there was things that our parents had to take their hands out of it and trust God. So I say to us, we got to trust the process. I say to the people that are watching, take your hand out of it and just trust God and believe in him. And because he won't fail us. That's it.
Nisha, you want to add?
I don't do it. This topic is too much for me.
So we ministering to her so this is really for her. We just talking to her through it. But so let's talk. How do we make that? So process is is how something becomes something else, right? So you process through stuff, and so a lot of times doing processing, you add some stuff, and as you add it, it helps make it. Let's say if you're doing ingredients, let's say you're adding. There's a process in which you add ingredients to make a cake, and so when you making them, when you add the flour, when you add the eggs, and so when you add the water or milk that you add, if you're making, I'm talking about cake box cake. So when you add all these ingredients, different, and at the end you don't really know it's a cake. Mm-hmm. And so I think with process is the problem with process is we don't know what each ingredient means, mm-hmm. and we don't know how the cake gonna turn out. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So mm-hmm. the process, you don't know if you're gonna be a chocolate cake, strawberry cake, lemon cake. You don't know, and so a lot of times when we know what the ingredients are, we kind of know what to expect. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? But now I don't know what ingredients when you go left, when I'm trying to tell you everything and you decide to go the other way, and I'm doing it because I love you, not and I want to see you do well, and I know what'll happen if you go down this road. Sometimes, because I've been down that road, so I know where it leads. You know what I'm saying? Then you don't listen, so I don't know what ingredient that is to it. But then what I do know, and what hit me a while ago, is when you was talking about it, to see someone, and see, you know what a seed needs? A seed needs a proper environment. Mm-hmm. So if you know you did your best with the environment, mm-hmm. the seeds will take ground, mm-hmm. and they'll take root. But like you said, we don't get to choose who water them. Mm-hmm. And we don't get to choose which seed come up first. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of our problem as parents. Mm-hmm. We want to see the seed of you on a good track, you making straight A's. And then sometimes the pressure on the child to meet our expectations can also be just as heavy as us seeing them go left. You know mm-hmm. what I'm saying? And so, which that was right. Sorry, y'all. Left. It's okay. We gotta laugh because this is heavy because it's been on me too, really. But because we don't know. I don't know what ingredients it need for me to see, and this is the other part. For me to see the version of my daughters that I want to see. Mm-hmm. But here's the tough part. That might not be the version that God has for them. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's like you talking about, we got to grieve that. Mm-hmm. Like there is a part of us that we know what we think will see our kids be mm-hmm. right mm-hmm. in our eyes. But that might not even be the path that God has mm-hmm. for them. Might so a lot of times, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so with me, I remember I was sharing this, I said, I remember my grandma used to pray, and my great grandma used to pray that her grandkids would be saved. Mm-hmm. Both of them died before they seen them. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the prayers are maybe heard and met, mm-hmm. but we might not be here to see it. Right. And so that's when we got to. That's why you got to trust God in the process. I just feel like it's tough because you won't. There's a part of us. Well, let me speak for me. There's part of me that I want to mold mm-hmm. my daughter. Mm-hmm. I want to be the molder. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I'm not. I'm a father, earthly. Mm-hmm. I ain't a creator. Right. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. And so the creator has a mold and a shape for it. Mm-hmm. And if I don't learn to line mine up with what his is, mm-hmm. I need to ask God, okay, what do you have for my daughter? Mm-hmm. What is it like? I know my daughter has a gift for leadership. Mm-hmm. She goes somewhere, a lot of people flock to her. She just has it. And so I used to always talk to her about it. But I remember her telling me one time, she felt like it was a lot of weight on mm-hmm. her to know that she's supposed to be a leader because she don't want to be one. Mm-hmm. I said most good leaders don't. Mm-hmm. they just don't. It is nothing that they desire, and that's why God can trust you with certain mm-hmm. stuff. It's just like you were talking about Isaiah and preaching. Most people who really know what it is, they don't desire. Look, the Lord may tell me I'm going tomorrow, but I do not desire to be a pastor. There's not a desire in my heart, mm-hmm. And it's not. I know what it carries. Mm-hmm. I know it's not a glamorous job. Mm-hmm. You are a servant. You signed mm-hmm. up to be a full-time mm-hmm. servant. Mm-hmm. So that means your feelings gonna get hurt, mm-hmm. your heart gonna get broke. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be rinse and repeat. There gonna be some good times. There gonna be some bad times. You gonna lose some people. You gonna see some people leave. You gonna see some people talk about you, even though you did everything you thought you needed to do that was right by them. You gonna see all that comes with it. Everybody wants to have this great big TV platform and thousands of people around them. But if you doing it for that reason, then you doing it for the wrong thing. You know, anybody ministry is not. I think we confuse church business with ministry.
Right.
Jesus did ministry.
Right.
We do church. There's a difference.
Right.
Ministry is about men and women. It's about people. So my job as a minister, I should be discipling somebody. We should be disciples of people. And most churches only worried about a head count. And that's why I think you have a lot of people struggling with who they are because nobody is really speaking to them. And so when us as parents have identity crisis, I had a decent job and I knew where I was at, but I didn't know what my call was on my life. I was 40 before I figured that thing out. And so at 40, I had a kid at 28. Was I 28? Yeah, somewhere around there. 28, 29, somewhere in there. But I don't even really know who I am. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of me she made me grow up faster. You know, I was an adult, but she made me become a real adult. Now I got somebody who's dependent on me, so I got to change some stuff. But I still didn't know who I was. I did not know and realize that I was a child of God. Because that's the first part. You got to know that.
Yes.
And until you learn that, we're going to struggle with identity. But once you learn that, then you got to work through all the stuff you've been through and still try to raise your child. You know, you got to still provide when you still trying to go through. You trying to figure out who you are. So it's like sometimes you can get so caught up in trying to heal yourself in order to be better for your children that sometimes your children may take a hit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because we can start to feel guilty for not having ourselves together. And that's why I don't like when I see I'm not shaming nobody about having a child young, and I'm not. But I really hate to see young people have kids because a lot of them don't know who they are.
Right.
And they're going to raise kids the same way. And, you know, it's already tough for us out here. And we know because we're adults and we've experienced, we all in our 40s. I'm 25, but they in their 40s.
The oldest. The oldest.
They said
The oldest. Knocking on 50. Knocking.
Hard.
The oldest.
But you know, it's
With a birthday coming up.
soon. Well, I'll be great at 48. Take a picture. It'll last longer.
The shenanigans. You knew it was coming.
Ooh. But you know, it's tough, and I hate to see these kids do it, man. It's like you 20, you under 30, you got 2 or 3 kids, man. It's tough. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have kids early. I'm just saying you need to know where you're going. You need to know what your plan for life is. And just because you know it don't mean it can't change, but you need to know. You need to have more focus. Like, okay, this is what I need to do. But if something changes, you're able to handle it because you're mature enough to have a child. Children take a lot.
They do.
It's very...
That's why they're called dependents.
Yes.
They are dependent on
Yes.
you. Yes.
So how do...
So they take a lot. They definitely take a lot. I have to say something really
Go
quick
ahead.
because you said something about we want them to go right and they may go left. And I thought about that doing that. Even though we may want them to go right, going left was part of their process. So going back to this cake, you know, with all these different ingredients, okay? So if you got the milk, you got the eggs or whatever you put in, the oil, butter, whatever, okay? So just imagine leaving out the milk or one of them ingredients. When you cook that cake, it's not going to be well. So if that person was meant to go right, I mean left, and they don't go left, they're going to miss something that they were supposed to miss and to see. And even though we wanted them to go right, we knew right was the right way to go. They may have avoided this, but when they go left, there may have been a testimony to help save somebody else by them going left and having those experiences. I just thought about that because, often, we want to rush the process. We want to skip ingredients. And I was looking at our thing for our topic for the other thing. Oftentimes we have become this microwave generation where we want to just rush everything. We want to skip processes. We want to skip healing. We want to skip, nobody likes pain and suffering.
Right.
But I just thought about that when you were saying that it's necessary for them to experience that left turn instead of going the right way, even though we know it's the right way.
And that made me think.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I've heard left and right. So, what happens when the child or the children seem to live and thrive in the left? The right is never an option.
So I speak to that. So I was in the left for a while, and it depends on what part of life you can look at. But being in, what I say about going left is, if it's part of God's plan, it's always gonna lead back to straight.
Right.
So you might get to the fork in the road, and you got to choose left or right, and you may choose left, but left will still lead you back to the path that you're supposed to be on if it's God's plan. And God is aware. He knows us. He knows what it's gonna take to bring us back to home. And then we have a decision to make in certain places, but in left it may be some stuff, some trees falling. The path might not be as clear. You may have to not cut some grass. You may have to go out there and lose your way and then come back like you come into the wilderness, because we was talking about that.
You might be in a pig pen.
Yeah. You might
hungry.
But then you're gonna be like, know what? My father's servants eat better than this. I'm going back home. And so then you come back to the Father. And I was talking about, if you remember the story of Moses delivering the Israelites, they went, the 40-day trip took them 40 years. But part of the reason why it took so long, one, was to avoid a fight they weren't ready for. And the other thing is to work where they was out of them, so they won't bring what was in them to the promised land.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's what it takes. It take that left. That left can take you down a path, and you run down a path for somebody that can help. You might not be healed in the spot, but like, man, you know what? I'm gonna pour on you here. They may get on a job, and somebody in the job may be able to talk to them and have it. Because a lot of times, as parents, even though we mean well, we can become a loudspeaker. Charlie Brown, the teacher Charlie Brown. No, I don't never know what she's saying, but on our side. But the kids always seem to answer, right? And sometimes we become the teacher on Charlie Brown to our kids. They use our voice. They hear us say everything, and they tune us out. And we sound want. And so that's why I had to learn, like, some stuff I might just have to let ride, because I don't want to be that teacher. And there's some stuff I'm just going to have to let you go left on. And I've been left. And I should have been left in my left turn, but God saw fit to bring me through it. Like I was talking about that today. There's some experience that I had because God been working with me and bringing them things back in remembrance. That was one thing. And the second thing He been working me with, He said, I'm in the small things. So I was telling them a story about, sometimes I'd be at the stoplight and I kind of being around. I said, man, I need to make this light. And sometimes it'll stay green. I'm like, man, no way in the world that light supposed to stay green that long. But it's like, God was like, I'm in the small thing.
In the small thing.
I know you needed them. I know you wanted to make that light. And I'm just showing you this, not because the light was important, but because to show you that I'm even in the small things. And so sometimes we so focused on who I'm supposed to be whenever I'm supposed to be there, that I don't never focus on the small things. And He's in the small things. So when you got somebody that would come by and speak to your kids and they look up to them, maybe there's something in them that they see that God will work with them with. Sometimes you find somebody that you like how they all like a role model. You like, man, I wonder what they doing in their life to be like that, because I want to be more like them. And so you able to talk to them then, and it's timing. I know we don't like the process. I remember when I first got saved, I was in my mid-20s, probably mid to late 20s. I made a confession for Christ, and I got in and was doing it for about a year. I was like, man, this meant for other people. You can't talk, you can't laugh. They still, I don't like this. I said, Lord, I'll be back when I get older. And he said, bet. Did I know when I left that church and went all out there that he was going to bring me all the way back till I got to the point, okay, I need you, God, because this ain't going to work without you. Mm-hmm. And then he put me back on my path. Mm-hmm. And see, even the thing about getting back on path, it don't mean there ain't another detour up there for you. Mm-hmm. You know, so the thing is, as for us, is we have to have faith in God. We pull when we're supposed to pull, learn what to say and not to say. Mm-hmm. Try not to be a voice that's always as negative, even mm-hmm. though we see the wrong. Sometimes the environment makes it be like somebody just need to love. Mm-hmm. And you know, even when as a parent, when you pour out all you think you can, a lot of times we pour out the way we think mm-hmm. they need love. We don't really think about how they need it. And sometimes we don't know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I don't necessarily know. I know exactly how to love my daughter the way she wants to be loved from me, but I am willing to learn. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's part of the thing, because we have to realize that even with us, and we're older, we love our parents, and we might not have got what we thought we needed, but we knew our parents really loved us. And now that we're older, we understand that they couldn't do certain things, and certain things were outside of, and then they dealing with stuff they never had to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, when you look at it from that perspective, it gives you like, you know what? I really appreciate them. They did the best they could with what they had. Mm-hmm. And I can't, you can't be mad with them no more. Mm-hmm. And who's to say that if you had the other stuff that you thought you needed, that you wouldn't have another issue? Because you would. Because I think you're going to have a God-sized hole in your life until you accept God. Right. And so there's always going to be something to hold. They kids that got everything they wanted and felt like their life was horrible.
And so unhappy. Yeah.
So did I answer your question? I know I didn't tell you what you wanted to hear.
You answered it. I mean, it is what it is. I don't have a lot to say.
I know it ain't what you...
I don't know. This whole... You say as a role, we play a role, and as a parent, I think most parents feel like our children should be our greatest accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And then when it turns out, and it looks like it's our greatest failure, mm-hmm. that is painful.
It is.
And right now, that's all I can see. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even want to say that he failed. It makes me feel like I failed mm-hmm. as a parent. And I had this conversation with my brothers, and of course, they're just like, you can't blame yourself. But I done went back through the whole the boyhood childhood to birth and I done fast forwarded, rewound, pause, play. I done went through everything mm-hmm. that I can think of in my mind and in my heart, and I just cannot figure it out. And then it's painful too, because I'm already in the process of grieving somebody. Mm-hmm. It's just another thing just thrown on top of that right now. And then to be around, to hear, when your friends and your family are making these great accomplishments, and you always ask yourself, why can't my child be like that? Mm-hmm. Why does my child have to be the one that always screw up? Mm-hmm. It's just a lot.
And I think we compare ourselves to other people and compare our lives to other people. Stories, because even sometimes people have compared my children to each other, and you can't compare mm-hmm. because everybody has a journey. And I just thought, because that guilt thing is real as a parent, like you said, you want your child to be the greatest accomplishment. Like I said in the beginning, we all have dreams for our children. We never want them to go bad or see them fail or hurt or be in pain. And then a true parent, when their child's in pain, they hurt too. Mm-hmm. So, but I was just thinking it's harsh when you got to continue to rehearse things, especially when you've done the best you can. So when do you give yourself, I guess this is my question, when do you give yourself grace to know that I've done the best that I can? I've been there. I've done everything that I could do. I know it doesn't look like, or it's not what I want you to be doing, or he's not doing what you want him to be doing at this time. But when do you give yourself a grace because you have an adult child? You've done your job as a parent, raising your child. You've been a great mother, because I know. So when do you give yourself grace to stop beating yourself up and say, God gives us all free will. He's an adult. He has free will to make choices. And I can't be responsible. He's going to make mistakes, but you're not responsible. And that's not a reflection of you or your character. So when do you, and I'm saying this to me too, because then next week you'll be telling me this same thing. You'll be like, go back there and look what you said. And then I'll be like, I don't want to talk to you. I ain't asked for no scripture. So, but I guess my question is, when do we give ourselves grace to say we've done enough, we were enough, and to kind of step back and just say, okay, I've done all I can do. If it can't get done, if it has to be God that does it, because I can't do anything else. I don't know. I think we got to get to that point where we could stop beating ourselves up, and because that's not doing any good to us. Stress kills. It makes us feel bad. So I think we got to get to that point. And with even me saying that, like I said, I know it's going to come back to me. You're going to be like, you remember what you said? I'll be like, girl, I ain't say nothing.
Also, something you said earlier was about you didn't want your children to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
I think mine needs to hit rock bottom. I think he's going to be one of those.